welcome to this video. Now you can of course tell by the title that today we are talking about something else than our kind of usual content and talking about wedding stuff. And I say it like that because I actually have 3 videos total planned just about wedding stuff. And today, this one specifically is going to be just like my biggest regrets, slash things that I wish I considered or knew while I was planning my own wedding. Now I have been married for actually almost 6 months exactly. I'm recording this on the 28th of April. Tomorrow, the 29th of April, will be 6 months exactly, since my husband and I got married. So I knew when I was starting this YouTube channel that a wedding video was something that I was going to want to make. And I think it's been a good amount of time for me to kind of digest everything and let all the emotions settle and all of that and create this list to share. So that's what we are going to be doing today. Now this of course is just my experience. I've only planned and had my one wedding, and everything that I'm going to share with you is very specific to that. I'm not necessarily going to be speaking in broad general terms and giving advice in that sense because I don't really know enough about weddings in general to do that. So this is just sharing my very specific experience, and hopefully, you know, I think that like with all things on the internet, we should not be taking it as like the one true word. We kind of, you know, take all of these different things and all these different ideas and experiences that people share and then consider them, apply it to our own situation, and ultimately make that decision, because I don't know what your situation is like and no one else really does. You know what your situation is like and how all these different factors might affect it. But when I was planning my own wedding, I found that this type of video was really helpful because there are so many things that you just don't think about until you actually live through that experience. Okay, so I have my list here of all of the stuff that I want to talk about. The first one that I have on my list is very, very specific to my situation and is probably not something that you maybe even had thought of, and when I say it, you're gonna be like, yeah, of course, why would you do that? But we got married the weekend of Halloween. Like, Halloween was on a Tuesday, I think, last year in 2022, something like that. And we got married on the Saturday before. So, of course, that would be like the weekend that you would celebrate Halloween if you were going to be celebrating it. So, in our mind, we were like it's just Halloween, but we were like, oh, everyone's giving up their Halloween weekend for us. The day after our wedding on Sunday, we'll throw a Halloween party. And we also were kind of thinking like that way because there were so many people we wanted to invite to the wedding that we just couldn't because we didn't have the space for it. So we were like, oh, it'll be a nice way to celebrate with more of our loved ones that couldn't come to the wedding if we have this Halloween party the day after our wedding. I would not recommend it. It was so exhausting. Like, we just weren't even able to be fully present. Like, it was still fun, and it was really great to, like I said, see some of those people that weren't able to be at our wedding. But we were so tired. We had to take a nap before the party started. We got to the party late. Other people had to set it up for us. And so it was fine, but we were just so tired. So I would say skip any type of post-wedding party. Another thing that I did that, again, this is very specific to my situation, but I did want to share it if it were something that you were considering, and maybe there are other parts of your wedding or your decor or something like that that you could apply this to. But I saw on Pinterest when I was planning my wedding, like a really cute picture of individual place card, like name cards for each person's seat. So I'm not talking about a seating table chart where you say like these 10 people are sitting at table 1, these 10 people are sitting at table 2. I had that and I think those are great. I would recommend that. But what I don't necessarily think is worth it is to go that extra step and put individual name tags that says everybody's name exactly where they're going to be sitting at the table. And it is like, it does look nice if they're done well. And, you know, I had a lot of fun making them myself. It did take a little bit of time, but if you had the time and you enjoyed making them, then that wouldn't really be an issue. I think where the issue for me anyway really came in was the logistics of it and the practicality of getting those all placed out on the table, because you are not going to have time to do it yourself. I did not have time. Truly thought I would have time to place them down myself the day of the wedding, but of course I did not. So that meant that somebody else had to go down there. I say down there, it's just the way that the venue was set up, so I might say that again. But I'm just talking about the venue. So somebody had to go to where the reception was being held and put all of those tags down. But here's the thing. If, like, you have another person do it, this other person that did it for me, they didn't know exactly who was who. And if you have multiple people who have the same name, or I don't know, something like that, it's gonna get messy. Whereas, like, this poor person who was this individual who was doing it for me had to keep running up to where I was getting ready to be like, does this Matt need to be at this table or is he at this table, kind of thing. So that just got really messy, and people, I would be shocked if you didn't have at least one guest that canceled the day before or the morning of the wedding, because we had a guest cancel the week before, the night before, and literally the morning of. And so then that becomes really messy when you're trying to figure out, like, these table cards. So you could just leave them there, put them there anyway, even if that person's not going to be there. But I don't know, it just took so much time to get them set up and then to hopefully make sure that they were getting set up properly. And then, you know, ultimately you know where you want everyone to be sitting. Like, you can take the table chart and this, you know, and know where those tags are supposed to go, but you are not going to be the one that puts them down. So I would say definitely do the seating chart, because that I think can be important. But unless you are super set on it, skip the individual place cards. So like I said, I DIY'd a lot of stuff. Honestly, just a lot of it was that I wanted to, and a lot of it was I thought maybe I would save some money, but ultimately it was just that I wanted to, and I kind of wanted to have that control over a lot of aspects of the wedding. And you, of course, know you better probably than anyone else, certainly better than I do, and you kind of, I think, will know your limits there a little bit better. And there are certain things that I would definitely say, yeah, DIY it, go for it. And then a lot, you know, some things that I would say, we DIY'd it, it didn't go very well. I'm not going to get too much into DIYs in this video, because I actually will talk about them a little bit more in the, like, money budget saving video. But there was one DIY that we did that I do regret, and that's why I put it in this video. And it will kind of bring me to the next point as well. So it's, again, like, every situation is so different that it's so, there's so many factors when you're planning a wedding. But one thing that we DIY'd was food. And you may not have even considered DIYing food. You're probably like, Molly, that's crazy. I don't know, like, why you would ever want to DIY your own food. But my husband and I had a really specific vision for our wedding. And a lot of what we wanted the food to be, we just could not find, like, a really nice professional catering service or vendor or whatever that could make what we wanted to happen. A lot of them, if you've looked into catering services for a wedding or anything at all, you will see that they're kind of, in my opinion, a lot of the ones that I saw, very rigid. Like, there's not really a lot of room for flexibility or making it what you want it to be. Like, you have only a few things to pick from or whatever, and you just don't get a lot of flexibility or choice within that. And we didn't really care for that. There was no caterer that really popped out to us as going to be able to create what we wanted. So we are also very fortunate in the sense that my husband's mom and her mom, so my husband's mom and grandmother, have been doing their own wedding catering and planning business for years. And while they certainly didn't plan our wedding or anything like that, his grandmother actually ended up making all of our food for the wedding, and we were okay with having her do that because they already have their own like professional business, and we know that her food was amazing, so we were very comfortable with doing that. But then what that meant was we needed to find some way to like have it be served or have some sort of wait staff or something like that, because obviously my husband's grandmother was not going to be serving people, and we were okay with not having a full wait staff. We didn't need like waiters, waitresses, whatever, coming over to the tables, giving you your food, taking your plates away. We were okay without that, just kind of like more buffet style where people go up and get the food, and then we have like bus buckets where you just like put your dirty dishes into. We were fine with that. However, that doesn't, we still knew that we were going to need somebody to make sure that the food was kept warm, make sure that the food was, you know, in the places that it needed to be at the right time, make sure people have water on the tables, things like that. We needed to find someone that could do that. And ultimately what we ended up doing was kind of going with what you've probably heard of as the term friender, which brings me into my next topic as well. But basically we had kind of like a friend of a friend situation volunteer to help and kind of be our wait staff. And their job was never to like wait the tables or anything like that. It was very low key. But one of the things that ended up happening that was super disappointing was we had individual water like goblet cups at each seat, and each table had like a pitcher for water, and those were supposed to be filled and they never got filled. So the guests had no water at the table, which was fine. We had water at the bar and everything, so it's not like people didn't have water, but it just wasn't supposed to be like that. And we had another friend who went through so much work to get those cups for us and get them clean and unpacked and then packed back up and after and everything. So it was just so much work to not even use them, and part of it was my fault for not having super clear instructions or directions. And on the other hand, if we had just gone with a professional sort of catering or waiting service, that probably wouldn't have happened. And if it did happen, I would have been more comfortable like explaining or expressing my disappointments. So while I think that DIYing your food could work, there's definitely some challenges there that you'll need to figure out. So overall, would I recommend it to just like anybody? Probably not. But again, it might work for you, but just definitely really consider it. And like I was saying before, the friend of the friend thing, the frienders, is another just thing I wanted to talk about within this video. And it's definitely something that I want to tread lightly here, because I don't want to be rude or offend anybody or anything like that. And not that I think anybody who worked the wedding or anything like that would even see this video, so it probably wouldn't matter. But nevertheless, I think that sometimes too, you know, I don't want to devalue someone's work or anything like that. Sometimes it's just like not the right fit, and it doesn't mean that their work is less, you know, is worth less than anything or anything like that. But I just think I bring this up, the topic of frienders, basically having someone that you know who is a close friend or a friend of a friend or some sort of situation like that where they have a professional service, and you then consider having them work your wedding, or maybe they offer or something like that. And again, your situation may be totally different where it just doesn't matter, and you could have whatever friend or do whatever service and it would all work out. However, I do think that it can be very difficult because you may not be satisfied with the product or the service that this person gives you. And it can be difficult, I think, to separate your emotions from the product, and it can be difficult to separate the product or the service from that person. And if this is somebody that you know or you care about, you may not want to be upset with them, or you may not want to have a really awkward conversation with them. Whereas if it were just a company that you didn't know, that you were just doing business with, and you were disappointed with their service, you would let them know probably. You would be like, hey, I didn't really get the value of what I paid for, or something like that. Or I don't know, it's just, it makes it, there's just a whole added layer when you know that person, or it's like a friend of a friend. And one thing too, aside from even like the product or the service, one of our frienders that we had several guests disclose to us, or to other people, that then it kind of got back to us. And we did witness it a little bit ourselves firsthand, but one of them was just so incredibly rude to like all of our guests, including my mom. Like literally made my mom cry because she was so rude to her. Like the mother of the bride on the day of the wedding. I just can't think of a single reason. And it's not even like my mom. My mom is not an overbearing person. She's very shy and reserved. She's not like she's in your face trying to make things happen. Like, no, she is not at all a mom monster-in-law or mom of the bride, whatever you want to call it. So it's just like, to treat the mom of the bride that way, I don't know, it just really, really bothered me. But it's somebody that is close to somebody that we're close with. So it's just like, how, it's just a really awkward thing, and not something that I'm necessarily comfortable bringing up and being like, yeah, it was kind of crappy what you did.
Hi everyone, Editing Molly popping in here. This video ended up being way too long. It was like 35 minutes, which maybe you think is not too long, but it felt a little bit too long for me. So I am actually going to break it up into two parts. And instead of filming a whole outro for this video, I just popped in like this. So we're going to end this one here, but I will see you all in part two very soon.